Welcome, everyone, and happy Thursday. It is noon Eastern time here on the East Coast in the booming metropolis known as Ambler, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. Thursdays, noon Eastern time, Ambler, PA. You know what that means. It is time for your favorite show on the internet, Talent Experience Live, the show that covers everything that you need to know in talent acquisition, talent management, recruiting as a whole, artificial intelligence, agents, and everything in between. Of course, I am talking about Talent Experience Live. And this show is proudly brought to you by the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is to help 1 billion find the right work. That is why we host this show every single Thursday, why we have a slew of other great content. We also host Cliff Yerkowitz's podcast, Unusual Attitudes, why we were at I Am Phenom Europe last week in Munich, why we have a number of other upcoming events like CAB. I know we're going to be at Workday Rising EMEA. We are going to be in Australia for another event, why we host fantastic webinars, why we have I Am Phenom Global coming up and I Am Phenom India coming up. All of these help work towards our purpose of helping 1 billion find the right work. And the way that we do that is through our Applied AI, which helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current roles and beyond, managers get to build better teams through data and analytics, and recruiters get to achieve next level productivity and efficiency. So if any of that interests you at all, feel free to run on over to phenom.com and request a demo. Well, now that the bills are paid, I recorded an episode a couple weeks back with Molly Stouffer, who is a recruiter who has taken the internet by storm. Molly first popped onto my radar probably about a year or so ago, and I asked her to join Talent Experience Live simply because I see her content everywhere, whether it's LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all of the socials. And one thing that was very striking to me was not only was she talking about her personal travels and how much fun she has and what she's doing with the family and so on and so forth, but she was also using these platforms to recruit actively. It is something that I don't think we see enough, that people are mixing both their personal content and their work content to really seem more approachable and really get their message out that they are truly human beings, especially in a world full of artificial intelligence and full of automation, which help us all do our jobs a little bit easier. Sometimes it is nice to have that human contact, to have that human connection with individuals. Molly and I sat down, had a very long conversation about some of her passions, how she got into it, and why she would encourage you to do the same, to start using some of these social media platforms to reach a broader audience, to try and connect yourself. She talks about going viral for the first time and everything in between. So without any further hesitation, thank you so much once again, Molly. But here is the episode with myself and Molly Stouffer talking about her journey on how to use TikTok to recruit. Welcome to the program, Molly. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this particular episode because I've been following your content on TikTok and on LinkedIn and everything for quite a while. And I shot you kind of a cold DM there out of the blue, and you're of course very busy filling roles and traveling and doing all sorts of fun things, that when you finally responded, I was like, let's get time on the calendar. But obviously I know a little bit of your backstory. We've connected off the air. Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and maybe your background and how you got into recruiting?
Sure, absolutely. It is a wonderful story. I, of course, like so many of us that have landed in recruiting, never thought this was even a job possibility. So I graduated from high school. I went into college. I went into sociology as my major, and came out of there not really knowing what my career path would look like. Stumbled into retail because I love people. I loved selling. I loved sharing things that I love with people. So that was a natural fit. And it was a funny story. I was working in a mall kiosk, and one of the managers from the local Victoria's Secret store came down, and she recruited me straight out of my kiosk to be her assistant store manager. We worked together at Victoria's Secret. She made a move and ended up in recruiting at a local bank. And then she called me the next time they had an opening. She said, I think you'd be really great at this job. Why don't you come and recruit with me? Of course, I had no idea what that job even meant outside of the interviews we had held at the store and being recruited myself. Long story short, she and I have now been in recruiting together at 3 different companies. And she is now one of the Cintas recruiters here on my team. So I love that I was able to recruit her after she recruited me into this amazing career.
Yeah, that's honestly the perfect kind of career trajectory, right?
Right.
It's almost taboo for me to say this working for Phenom, but I always say that the best job application is no application, right? Is meeting someone in person, having a natural conversation, and immediately kind of having that referral or that connection. And so many of us who end up in this world of human resources and recruiting are plucked from other parts and other departments, and it's easier to kind of recruit when you have a sales background, I think, because they're synonymous, right? You are selling the role, you're selling the organization, and you're not going to get every single sale. There's never in the history of sales been a perfect salesperson, just like there's never been in the history of recruiting a perfect recruiter who's 100 for 100 when it comes to candidates. But obviously, this is something you're super passionate about. I have to ask you, why do you love recruiting so much?
Again, I love sharing information. If I know about something, I want you to be in the know about it. So whether that is fostering dogs, fostering people, going shopping for Jellycats. I recruited a couple of my friends with me this week in Chicago to a local little flower shop that I found that had the biggest selection of Jellycats I'd ever seen in my life. So I recruited them to come and become fans of Jellycat with me. So if I love something, I want you to know about it. If I think it's going to benefit your life, I want you in the know. And that's how I feel about jobs, because we can change the trajectory of someone's life. We can introduce them to a company where they can build an amazing career. Hopefully they can gain financial freedom and create an amazing life where they're building wealth, where they're being able to support their children, where they are able to travel more. And so for me, if I can pull all of those things that I'm passionate about together, I'm lucky that they pay me to do this job. I'll just say that.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen, right? If you're having these conversations, it's one thing that excites me, I think, about the future of technology is that we're beginning to see the opportunity where folks can showcase themselves similar to the way that you did, I think, in your backstory, that's beyond a resume, right? It is beyond a job description, beyond a job title, because we can offer so much, right? And when you say you're happy to share information with people, you're happy to find out what their hobbies are or what Jellycats they like or anything in between, you're learning more about them. And that's truly, I think, why we all are in this industry. I have to ask you, I don't think it sounds like recruiting, in fact, you said it, recruiting wasn't something that you knew you wanted to do. You didn't know anything about it. Was there a moment in time when you said, maybe it was the first hire you made or the first great conversation or even a referral, where you said, this is something I love, this is something I want to continue and pursue for the rest of your career, pending that doesn't change, because careers change all the time. You could have bigger aspirations, but when was it something you knew you had fallen in love with?
I think that first job opportunity where we were making connections, and you see the impact that the candidates have on the business and what the business has on the lives of the candidates, those things work together so closely. And when it is truly a match, that candidate is growing in the organization. One of my favorite parts of my job is when the candidates that I brought on are getting promoted and they're the ones being highlighted and they're the ones that are racking up their awards because you made that match in the culture of the organization. The individual is thriving, the business is thriving. And when you have happy people, they make recruiting so much easier. And that's when I knew I loved it. I've worked with amazing leaders, and it's been easy for me to share with people about opportunities. I don't take my job lightly at all, because I'm asking someone to do one of the most challenging things that a human is going to be able to do by changing their career. I'm asking them to change their health insurance, to maybe change how their family schedule works, how their daily routine looks. And so I want to make sure as a recruiter that it is truly a match and that they won't regret that decision 6 months, a year down the road. I don't want to recruit that position again. I want to make sure that I've made a match that's going to have staying power.
That's amazing. And I love that you take that much thought into it, because there is, I think, some recruiters out there, not all, of course, that are just trying to fill roles, right? And there's, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with that, because that is the goal. But for you to have that human connection and understanding that
when they accept a job, they're going to be spending more time with their coworkers or their customers than oftentimes with their family, which is always tough to do. But that's so important. You never want to lead someone down the wrong path. And I'll share a personal story. Occasionally, the match doesn't work out, right? There are instances where someone is all on board, they're excited about it, but you can still have a positive impact in their life. From my experience, I remember I went to a small college in Florida. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. I apologize. But I was friends with the basketball team, and one of the basketball players went to Europe, played overseas over there, had a professional career, and then came home and was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. So I had gotten him into a role in third-party logistics as a salesperson. And it didn't work out. He didn't love it. I understood. But that experience that he gained from that role was able to land him his next position, which he wouldn't have had that opportunity before. So creating those human connections, creating those opportunities for folks, and being transparent, I think is truly amazing. And it speaks volumes to your professional career as well as recruiters as a whole. With great power comes great responsibility, as they say in Spider-Man. So I love hearing that. Now, obviously, the reason why I reached out to you was because of your social content. I found you on TikTok and your content there and fell in love with it. And one thing that jumped out at me, which I think is very unique, is you mix both professional and personal content. I've been on, TikTok for quite a while now, and I see people who only, talk about recruiting for roles, or only talk about the current openings, or marketing an individual to a position that's remote and, 100K plus. You have combined both the fruits of your labor, I think, with some of the vacation stuff that you do, as well as what roles you're recruiting for right now. And I want to ask you, since it is so rare, why is that so important to you? Why have you taken that approach?
I feel like, especially on these social media platforms, I want to build trust. And we may make a connection around one of the things that I'm a fan of that you are, whether it's travel, it's cruising, it's Disney. I'm moving my kid to a small college in Florida at the end of August. So we may connect on one of those other topics. Then you're going to trust me, and we're going to have that connection where, again, even if it's not the position for you, because you know me and you know my heart and you know my vision for helping everyone I can find their next right move, then hopefully that neighbor that says, I'm looking for something new, you go, oh, Molly does recruiting. She knows about jobs. Let me connect you. That I may be working on that 6 degrees of separation. I may not have the connection with the person we're going to hire, but I may know someone who knows someone who knows them. And so if I can get my reach out as wide as I can, then the chances of me getting to that person quicker are there. And so it's definitely a benefit to me as a recruiter. Hopefully I share that same value with these job seekers that may not have a recruiter in their corner. I don't ever want them to feel like they're at a disadvantage. So I want to share all my tips and tricks. You mentioned transparency, and I always get that comment. They're like, I appreciate you being so candid and transparent. And I think sometimes they're taken aback by it. But in this business, with so much on the line, how could I not? And that's my approach to it. So I had my best friend be laid off 2 weeks ago. She's asking me what I can do to support her. And through that conversation, I'm like, I want everyone to know a recruiter that has some general tips and tricks that maybe Cintas is not the right place for them, but they can take some nugget of information that I'm sharing from my 20 years of experience and apply it in their next interview. Go back and look at their resume with fresh eyes, make a connection on one of these platforms that they may have been hesitant to reach out before, or they didn't know they were supposed to reach out in that way. If I can share any of that with them and help them, that's the joy that this job and this platform bring to me.
Yeah, and it can be something simple, right? Maybe you chat with a candidate, you think they're a great fit for the role, something doesn't align, but there was, a piece of advice that you could give them for their next interview. One of my favorites that I always used to share with people was smile when you're on the phone. It sounds ridiculous. You may feel like you look ridiculous, but you can truly hear a smile through the tone of your voice. Another simple thing could be like, don't forget to not chew gum, whatever it may be. Bring paper resumes, even though everything's digital. It's just easy to hand it to a hiring manager. And those things go a long way. And I don't think they're common knowledge anymore. I think with the advancement of technology and applying to jobs being almost like a task, a checkbox for individuals now, right? You see, I applied to 100 jobs today or whatever it may be. When you get that interview, you want to lead with your best foot. And sometimes that may be asking better questions at the end of the interview or smiling on the phone. But I love hearing that. And also, I will have to talk off air about where your small child is going to school in Florida. I won't do it now, but super exciting stuff. Now, obviously, there had to be a moment in time where you said, I have my personal content on, my TikTok, on my LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. I want to post about my open roles. What prompted that? Was it you were stressed and you're like, I just need to get these jobs out here? Was it just kind of like, let me give it a shot? How did you reach that point? Because I think it's intimidating for a lot of folks. People want to keep work and life separate, no matter how much we talk about work and life synergy or work and life balance. For some reason on social media, people keep them separate. So what prompted you to combine the two?
And this goes back even further than TikTok, if I'm being honest. And I started recruiting right at the time when LinkedIn was taking off. So I remember them bringing us to a conference in Houston about this new platform that they were starting. I think I was one of the first 10,000 users on LinkedIn. And that was the same time where Facebook was actually allowing the general public to set up accounts. And Facebook was not anything that I knew about. I don't know if that's just because I was in Southwest Louisiana and sometimes the trendy stuff took a little bit longer to make it to our college campus, but I don't remember it. And so when a friend of mine told me that you could make a Facebook group without a .edu address, I knew that was going to be an avenue for me to connect with candidates. And so that has always been, whether it's Instagram and me doing where in the world can a career with Cintas take you, going on vacation, stopping in 5 or 6 cities where I was recruiting for our driver positions, taking a picture of my cute t-shirt with a map and putting that on Instagram. So that was a natural progression for me. The way that my social media accounts have been set up since day one. And maybe that's the advantage of it, is that I didn't ever have social media not being a recruiter, that mine have always been side by side. And I want anyone that I work with to be able to follow me on those platforms. I want my kids' friends to be able to follow me on those platforms and get the same level of professionalism that I expect from them when they're posting on their own social media platforms, is what they're going to see if they ever come to mine. And so there's no hesitation for me to connect with anyone in my work community, in my social community, in my church community. They're all going to be able to coexist on any of these platforms and experience me in the same way.
I love that because it's a challenge that I run into. When I talk to my coworkers, I'm like, just connect with us on LinkedIn, right? I promise I'm not going to see your Instagram, and what you're doing on the weekend or anything like that. But you talking about, the early days of Facebook opening it up to the general public, back when algorithms didn't exist, Molly, when you could post in the morning where you were and people would see that throughout the day. Now they may not see it for 2 or 3 weeks, but that's a whole nother story that we'll get into
Great
later.
Point.
But I think it's exciting. And it's also awesome that you jumped on that immediately, that you said, hey, people are going to use this to network. That's what I do for a living. Why separate the two? I want to ask you, because I think it, for anyone listening at home, it's the first question that they're going to ask is, was it an instant success? Did you immediately have a full pipeline of candidates or did it take time to get traction? And then continuing on that, how much does it ebb and flow today with the changes in social media platforms?
Yeah, it's definitely not been an instant success. It definitely is the intentionality behind it, no matter the platform. With TikTok, I have been making similar posts now for 5 years. And if they got 100 views, I was excited. The team was excited. I started posting before we had a team representing the organization. And so I knew that this was a way that I was going to reach candidates, and I'm here for it. That's my goal. So I was, the front runner on that. And one post that I got that I thought had amazing views in the beginning, and looking back at the rest of the content I was putting out, it did. I sat on my back porch on a Sunday and made a video about how our Cintas partners are working Monday through Friday. And just that little video that said, hey, I'm being able to spend time with my friends and family and do what I want to do today and hang out on the patio with my pups. And it's a Sunday. And that wasn't something that I got to do in retail. So that is still one of those through lines that continues through why you should come to work with me, is because I'm not having to work on the weekends. I do have that Monday through Friday schedule. And I know that there are a lot of people that are still looking to make that simple transition in their routine. So that video got a couple of thousand views and I was thrilled. And I kept working to build that network. You know, my husband's hilarious, so I pull him into my shenanigans every once in a while. My kids are mortified that their mom's on TikTok as much as we are. We kind of have a family joke that I'm over poster Stouffer, and people know that I'm going to be putting something on social media about everything that we're doing, again, in that effort to connect, because maybe we connect about a job, maybe we connect about a vacation, maybe we connect about our passion for people. I want to be where the people are. As Ariel would say from Little Mermaid, that's another one of my favorite quotes. And so I want to be where the people are. And once I realized the impact of TikTok as a platform, once it surpassed Google in some search criterias, I knew that I had to be more intentional with my posting. And now in the past month, the response has been astounding. I literally cannot keep up with the responses that I've received from candidates in their comments. They are emailing me their resumes. They are connecting with me through LinkedIn and sending messages there. And so I'm still trying to do my full-time job and manage the social media success. But it's thrilling to me and giving me energy at every corner, because I know I'm one step closer to helping fill every position we have available and helping individuals find their next right move in their career.
Yeah, it's champagne problems, right? At the end of the day, where you have all these candidates, and now you get to sit back and say, "Look at this stuff, isn't it great?" I just got back from Disney, so we met Ariel and did the whole thing.
My favorite. We will have so much to talk to after the episode.
Yes,
for sure.
yes, we will. And this is what you're talking about, is creating this human connection, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, even with, you know, the toughest critics, it sounds like, in your own house being your children,
Right.
was there anything that surprised you from the response? I think a lot of people are hesitant because they don't want negative backlash or anything like that. It sounds like that wasn't anything that was surprising to you, but you have, you know, the spoil of riches of candidates coming in. Anything that really truly caught you off guard based on your experience?
You know, I mean, there are definitely some individuals, of course, we know that negative comments about a company or a job or a location are going to come out, you know, especially with job seekers, because their livelihood is on the line. So it's such a tender topic for them. And if they are struggling to make a fit to find that employment that's going to provide for their family, it's a prickly topic. And so I again try to connect and especially be empathetic for those individuals that have applied multiple times, that are not receiving a response as quickly as I'd love for them to, because we are all inundated with resumes that we're working through, and we're trying to find the best, most qualified candidates for each of the jobs that we're working on, and then providing resources wherever we can to redirect individuals that need a few more skill building resources behind them to make that match happen. So I definitely, that has been the biggest challenge for me, has been how quickly people are wanting me to personally respond. And so I have high expectations for myself as well, and I want to do for everyone, but I may only be able to do for a few at a time. So I think that for me, just, you know, some of the negative comments about how long it's taking me to personally get back to them, because never before had I received this kind of response to any of my content. So I just had no idea that, you know, overnight I was going to get 270,000 views and 350 resumes delivered to my inbox, which usually that takes me weeks to get 300 and something resumes. So that's been the biggest surprise. And the simplicity of the post that went viral, just me sitting at my desk, telling them about jobs that are posted on the website, that are posted for anyone to view at any time, making such a big impression, and the outpouring of contacts with those candidates has just been tremendous.
Yeah, 350 resumes. That's a hiring event. That's university recruiting that you're coming back with a stack of them. And that takes weeks to respond. I understand social media and the kind of I need it now aspect of that, the instant gratification, if you will. But that's a lot to go through. And I love hearing that you're making your way through it and that you do, leave no stone unturned, right?
Yeah.
If somebody reaches out, you'll get to it at some point, but you still have a day job, right? At the end of the day, granted, the two are a little bit mixed right now, but you have to continue to do those interviews and continue to go through the processes. Now that we've talked about the negative stuff, there's enough negative things on the internet. I want to hear what's one of your most fulfilling stories from social media, whether it be TikTok, whether it be the early days of Facebook, that kind of keeps you going, that says, you know what, today is Thursday. I don't feel like posting, but what if, this happens again? What's that one story?
Right. I think it was one of the partners that I got to meet in person, because how lucky am I to have an office location where at this point now 2 of our hires have come from my TikTok posts at my location here in East Houston. And so this partner, when I showed up at the team meeting where we were announcing her joining the team, I received the biggest hug when I walked in the door, and she's excited about the role. It's a role that we don't have a lot of female candidates that apply to traditionally. So I am thrilled that I had a minority female candidate enter this space that, if you looked at our numbers, they're few and far between. So I'm helping connect someone to an opportunity they may not have even considered before now. And then for her to get up and introduce herself and find out that she's also from the same town in Louisiana that I'm in. We had not even made that connection because I wasn't the one that interviewed her. She interviewed with one of my coworkers. And so we made that connection. So we've got the hometown connection of Louisiana girls moving to Texas, finding each other in East Houston in our first aid and safety division. It just doesn't get better than that.
That's amazing. And I love the fact that you kind of called out there that it was a division that lacked both gender and diversity, right? The two in the same, because there's been studies, there's so much about a job description or a job title that could be masculine leaning, right? The way something is phrased. I've had conversations on this program about it. And it's not that I think anyone is up to, no good. It's just natural human bias, right? And historically, I think women are less likely to apply for roles that they may be missing 1 or 2 of the requirements for. Mind you, men being the lunatics that we are, will just throw our resume at anything and see if it sticks. But nonetheless, making that connection and encouraging someone or giving someone the confidence to apply to a role that they may not have heard about, that typically they wouldn't, and then it being a success story, and you guys, having this in your own backyard where you practically grew up together almost is truly amazing. That's awesome. Now, my next question is, I think there's going to be a lot of individuals when they watch this episode, they're going to say, all right, maybe I'm not willing to go out and create my own profile or start posting about jobs, which we'll talk about some advice for them in a moment. I think a lot of the reaction is going to be, we need to get careers.phenom, whatever it is, on social media platforms so we can start to reach people. Do you think that you are at a competitive advantage versus maybe a careers profile because of your content? Or is that truly a good starting point to get the company kind of energized behind recruiting via social media? Does that make sense? I know I kind of pieced a couple questions together.
I mean, I think so, and I hope so, and I hope that I am a competitive advantage for any organization that I work for, and I want to be the trailblazer and help companies see the potential and see how they can adjust their strategies to meet candidates where they are. If I encourage even one company to take their careers page viral, let's make it happen.
Yeah. No, and I think of it like back in the old days. Of course, not the real old days, but newspaper ads, right? That's where the wanted ads was where people were. That's where they got their news. And now we get our news feeds on our phone via social media. So it's just an evolution of it. And I love that you're on the cutting edge of that. What is one piece of advice that you would give someone who is kind of on the fence about posting some work-related content to their personal accounts, looking back on kind of how you started, understanding that people are hesitant, what's that one piece of advice that you would get them to push them over the edge?
Yeah, I think it's just don't take yourself too seriously. We People want that authentic connection. They want to see who you are as a person, and that's who they want to come work with, hopefully. And so I think that has been, some of the nicest things that I've heard are where they're like, "Hey, there's this, crazy funny lady on TikTok that's talking about jobs, so I applied." And I'm like, "Hey, if that's who I am in your world, I love it because you took notice, and now you're going to be able to start a great career here." And so that's exciting to me. So don't take yourself too seriously. Don't feel like you have to be polished. Um, like I say, I posted this on LinkedIn. I was like, I cannot be held responsible for what my face does when I'm making a TikTok. I have tried to adjust it a little bit here and there, but you're getting the real Molly. And hopefully that resonates with some job seekers and they continue to follow me.
Yeah, personalization starts with being personal, right? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, it starts with being yourself. And I love that because, as you mentioned, kind of at the top of the program, it's intimidating to look for a new job. Everyone's lives depend on it, right? At the end of the day. So being approachable, being relatable is only going to help you in the long run. I love that sentiment of you gotta be your crazy self. I'm my crazy self every single day. They know it, in the office. I get to showcase some of it here on LinkedIn every now and again. And my face does the same thing. Our videographer, when they cut up clips, will take screen grabs of me and be like, "What were you doing here?" That's going to be one right there. But nonetheless, anyway, I say that to say I feel your pain. But I want to ask you, what's next? What are you excited for in the future? Obviously, social media keeps evolving. Where do you see the future of this going? Where do you want to take it for yourself? Where, like, not 5-10 years down the line, but what do you think in the near future as people begin to experiment with this over time?
Goodness, it's just incredible to see what we're doing today. I can't even think about what's next because I'm just trying to manage what's happening right now. But our company continues to grow. I hope that every company continues to grow and that we can connect people with meaningful careers. Again, where they can build a career that gives them financial freedom to do whatever they want to do next, and we get to follow along with their career journeys. I think that is so fun. I've been doing some work recently of highlighting some of the career progressions of some of my leaders and just watching people get promoted and watching people elevate and start their own businesses and just improve their communities through the confidence that they've gained with their personal career journeys. I just think that would be incredible. And that's what the next generation needs. I mentioned that I have one kid in college and I actually have two in college right now and a senior in high school. And so I've been on all of these pages where these parents are so stressed about not only how to pay for college, but what their students are going to study and what jobs are going to be available when their students graduate. And the exciting thing that I can tell them, because I've seen it in my own career, is that the positions you're going to fill may not even exist right now.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing new things all the time. And so it's just incredible to see how technology is not only changing how we work, but what our work will be. And that's exciting for me.
Yeah, life comes at you fast, right?
Mhm.
And this was never on the job description for me. Was you're going to host a live stream and do a podcast and run social
Right.
media, and you're absolutely right when it comes to parents stressing about college, about wanting the best for their children to be successful. But how many of us end up in careers that we didn't go to college for, right? That we took that first sales job and were able to kind of parlay that into recruiting and so on and so forth. It's about the networking. It's about being personal. It's about creating for yourself. And I love that you're passing that wisdom on to people, hopefully getting some parents to sleep a little better at night. I'm sure they'll still have nightmares. That's what parenting is, right? But that's awesome, Molly. I'm super, super thankful that you took the time to chat. We're going to have to circle back in 6 months to a year or whenever, and see what's changed, see what's new and exciting. But in the meantime, thank you so much. I want to ask you, for folks that want to follow your content, where can they reach you? How can they find you?
Yeah, I'm One of my favorite podcasters says it all the time. She said, I'm embarrassingly easy to find because I am Molly Stouffer on all the platforms. So
Okay.
you'll find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Look for Molly Stouffer. You're going to come up with my information, and I can't wait to meet you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Molly. I'll let you get back to your busy day. I really appreciate the time, and keep up the good work. This is an awesome conversation to have.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Molly, thank you so much once again for joining me. Listening back to that conversation, it was a ton of fun. Can't wait to have you on again. Hopefully, in the new year, we can talk about new trends and new things that evolved, and also your successes, so that we can say this wasn't just a flash in the pan. You are actively recruiting on social media, and it's doing a lot more for you than some of the traditional job boards might. And it's also able for you to connect with people and really understand where they're from, why this impacts their life, and hopefully makes a better life for them tomorrow. Because that's what Phenom is all about at the end of the day. It is helping 1 billion find the right work, as I mentioned at the top of the program. And I can't wait to have you on again, Molly. So thank you so much. In the meantime, I hope everyone has a safe, happy, and healthy weekend. Don't forget to register for I Am Phenom India, as well as I Am Phenom Global in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It is fast approaching. I know we have some news coming out in the coming weeks, so get your tickets now while it's still the earliest early bird special or whatever it may be. Everyone have a safe, happy, and healthy weekend. Can't wait to see you next week. And Jets by 10 tonight. Thanks so much. Have a great day.